Alright, well, unless I'm mistaken, that, my dear Let's Watchers, was Fable 3. We experienced it together, and I hope that you've enjoyed the ride. Um, what can I say here? For one, I would like to point out that in the long run, somehow I accidentally managed to do exactly what I set out to do once the second stage of the game began. I managed to keep the promises to all the people who helped me out and were cool people, and I managed to, like, alienate forever and possibly have killed Paige, the person I hate more than everyone else in this game. Why do I hate her so much, you ask? Maybe because you haven't seen the episodes, and maybe simply because I tremendously overreacted to her incompetence. But, really, it just bothered me tremendously that she was the leader of the resistance, and she was incredibly incompetent, and yet she was always yelling at me to be, like, doing better. Like, we went and fought at Reaver's house together, and she was like, "Oh man, I've never fought before." And it's like, how have you never fought before? You're the leader of the revolution to overthrow the king. You're gonna need to know how to fight. You can't just call yourself the leader of the revolution. I don't understand. But yeah, as I said earlier, I've sort of gone on record with having a lot of complaints about this game. And, you know, the gameplay is fairly simplistic, but it does do a good job of reacting to your style of play. So if unlike the way I was trying to play for most of the game, where I was trying to balance my fighting style between the three types, the melee, ranged weapons, and magic, you know, you would be much stronger in one area than the others, depending on which one you preferred to play with. And I think that's a really cool system, actually. It was a really intuitive and organic way to implement RPG elements into, like, a third-person fighting game. Like, at its core, this game is something of a button masher, when you boil it down. You know, you just keep pressing X until things are dead, or, you know, pressing Y or B, depending on what type of fighting you're doing. But, yeah, it's a really interesting experience in that you get to amplify whatever skills you're interested in using the most, without having to actually, like, put points into things and do a lot of, like, bookkeeping associated with things like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, or even just other role-playing video games. You know, even something as simple as Pokemon. Well, I don't know, actually, Pokemon has a similar style of amplifying the skills you want. You can, like, breed certain attributes into your Pokemon if you have too much time and no friends, which, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit, I've done it before. It's really tedious to the point that I, who am usually known for being able to deal with really, like tedious and boring tasks without complaining, I have difficulty trying to focus on it and getting the best results out of my Pokemon. But here, all you have to do is play the game, and you're rewarded for playing it however you do. You know, a lot of the individual missions weren't as interesting in their own right as maybe I would like. But honestly, overall, I did definitely enjoy the story. I thought that was a very sincere and emotional ending. And I was surprised, because I didn't have a strong attachment to a lot of the characters throughout the game. I find it interesting that John Cleese, who's probably easily one of the biggest names attached to this game, is such an ancillary character. You know, he spends most of his time in your pause screen, and occasionally offers advice or criticisms through some sort of narration, like loosely explained, disembodied narration. But yeah, you know, overall I thought elements like the voice acting were pretty good throughout. The character faces are kind of creepy, to be honest. The character design in general isn't actually all that great, in my opinion. And honestly, the world itself feels pretty small. Even, you know, there's lots of different towns, and if you wanted to, you could walk between them and, like, make the world seem larger in an artificial way. But, you know, the game sort of rightfully implements a system where you don't have to do that, because the areas between the different, like the areas between the different towns don't really offer all that much. They don't offer much scenery, to be honest. They don't offer a whole lot to the gameplay. They just, like, throw some more generic bad guys at you. But, overall, it is a game that has some flaws, certainly, but, like, almost every video game has a few, like, glaring flaws, even. There are very few video games that I've played, in the very least, that I would call even, like, close to perfect. Generally, I'm not sure how much I've touched on this. Generally, my style of gameplay, I prefer what are sort of known as adventure games, and not like fantasy adventure in the style of something like Zelda, like Ocarina of Time, which I played on the Renegade Constabulary channel with my friend Tekazurek. That is one type of adventure game, and I do tend to explore that genre a little bit, try it out. Hence, playing Fable 3, which is a similar style of game. It doesn't have the depth of something like Ocarina of Time, certainly. But, overall, it's a third-person fantasy game. I guess this one has the role-playing element that Zelda really doesn't have. Like, Zelda games have, like, the puzzle element, and, they offer you a variety of equipment, and to some extent you can vary your fighting style, like, maybe you prefer using the bow and arrow, or like the long shot and hook shot to accomplish various tasks that you could use with, like, the sword or, other items. But for the most part, there's sort of like a set course through the Zelda game, and you can sort of optimize a run through it. Whereas something like Fable 3, you're able to sort of, to some degree, choose your own adventure. You can choose the way that you'll go through the game. You can influence the ending to some degree, certainly, as we've demonstrated by giving Paige the cold shoulder, which was awesome. That may in fact be one of my absolute favorite parts of my playthrough of this game. Thanks to Rival It, I think one of my favorite moments in the story was the Dungeons and Dragons mission, where you get shrunk down and you're on the table and you're interacting with those weird little, like, flat figurine characters. I don't know, there was a really fun sense of humor about it, and it was very self-aware, because obviously a game like this has some influence from those major flagship titles in the role-playing genre. That was definitely a great moment. There's just something about the entire battle in Morningwood against, like, deceased Lieutenant Simmons, and that firing the cannon at all those zombies. There was something about that which I also ranked very highly. It was just a very enjoyable section of the game. I had a lot of fun there. Things that weren't favorite. I didn't like the play mission, and I was expecting to. It seemed like it was going to be fun, but, like, the jokes they went for were, like, weirdly crass, and the things that weren't jokes were just really flat. They weren't that interesting. It was sort of an extension of the moral choice system in a way that wasn't very interesting. Even the moral choice system itself, while I think it certainly accomplishes what the game designers were trying to have it do, like, it certainly affects the world, and you can sort of express your personality by the choices that you make in the game. I could do for the system having more interactivity. Like, for example, you could do something like, you could complete one of two tasks in order to have the moral choice occur, rather than just press one of two buttons. It could be like, you could venture to this land and, like, find this rare artifact to, like, solve this puzzle or something. Or you could just, like, take the easy way and, like, do something that doesn't involve so much adventuring and, like, personal risk. Something like that might have been a more interesting use of the system, and it certainly would have made the second half of the game a little more exciting. The second half of the game was certainly a bit of a downgrade, perhaps, from the first half. Like, the first half is definitely more about adventuring and fighting, and it makes sense because you're trying to prove yourself as a hero when, like, you have no background in it, you haven't really trained all that much for it, and, like, it makes sense. You're a prince. You've been living or a princess if you chose such. But you're royalty, and so you live in the castle and don't have a lot of reason to get your hands dirty with things like that. Um, and it builds up a certain expectation of what the rest of the game is going to be like, and I feel like it doesn't necessarily follow through on that. At least there's some open world nature to it where you can go out and take on new side quests and stuff. You can still get some of that gameplay, some of the combat, some of the role playing type stuff in the second half of the game. It's just so much fewer and further between that it was just like a little bit of a disappointment. So much of the gameplay at that point was, just involved the two button system, and I feel like if they just incorporated more action into that section of the game itself would have been more well-rounded overall. I would definitely say that I enjoyed this game. I'm glad I played it. I had fun with it, and I hope that you have had fun watching. As I'm sure I've said 500,000 times by now. Hopefully you leave me some comments. You like any videos that you happen to actually like. Give me the thumbs up. It helps people. It raises my profile. Helps share it with other people who maybe wouldn't see it otherwise. And I plan to keep playing different games. Getting the games out there for the world to see. Hopefully you enjoy my style of play. And and this is probably a good time to touch on my next project. What I'm going to do, the next game that I'm going to play is Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which is just to loosely explain it and let you know what it's about. There's an artifact that gets destroyed, which causes the world to fracture, and so Spider-Mans from different dimensions, hence Shattered Dimensions, have to work together, although not directly. They're each assembling different pieces of the artifact that have ended up in their own worlds, and they're trying to piece them back together to set the world straight. So it's a game where you get to play as 4 different versions of Spider-Man and experience different continuities and characters, and it's very interesting. I enjoy it a lot. And if my explanation here hasn't already given it away, this game is not going to be a blind play. I'm going to try out a little bit of a more prepared style, maybe a little bit of a cleaner let's play. But it's definitely, I won't be able to post as frequently in order to up the quality, unfortunately. And I may not be an ultimate master at playing the game. I certainly haven't been able to complete all of the challenges or get all of the achievements. But I can certainly navigate my way through all the worlds, and I have some idea what's going on, and can shed some insight onto some of the combat tactics that are more useful than others. So hopefully you have some interest in that. And beyond Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, I don't really have any plans for what games I'll be let's playing in the future on my solo channel, VascoDaGamer. And I'm willing to take suggestions from the audience, you guys. I'd love to start opening a dialogue with people and getting some feedback from you so that I can give you the type of viewing experience that you're looking for. So yeah, any feedback that you have about this game, my style of play in general, or anything to do with my upcoming project. I think I'm probably going to be posting Spider-Man twice a week, maybe Tuesday and Thursday is sort of my thought at the moment. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be preparing another project, which isn't a Let's Play, but I'm going to plug a little bit on my channel, I guess. I'm also planning on working on a bad TV blog. I could talk all day about bad TV, and I sort of realized that recently, and decided that maybe it was time to share that with the world. So I'm going to start trying to write a blog and, I'm going to give you some details, some information on how to follow it if you're interested in reading some of my work regarding my reactions to shows like Code Lyoko, Beyblade, Card Fight Vanguard, probably at some point Yu-Gi-Oh! The list goes on. And at some point, once my personal list has diminished, I'm definitely going to be taking challenges from anyone who's like, oh man, like, there's this show that you've maybe never even heard of. It's so bad, and like, I want you to watch it. Like, I'll watch almost anything, which is, again, sort of why I'm embarking on this project. So, yeah, if you have any interest in that, if you like watching bad movies ironically, or you just like a heavy dose of sarcasm while someone looks at something that's utterly absurd, this may be the outlet for you. It's certainly going to be an outlet for me, and I hope some of my viewers will carry over and check out my work. And I'll be taking suggestions there as well. I definitely want to, I'd like to have something of an audience at some point that, following my work, maybe enjoying what I do. I do it all for you guys. And, to give myself something to do, I guess. But mostly for you guys, which is why I've been trying to spark some conversation in the comments throughout my Let's Playing. What's the verb for that? I'm just going to stick with Let's Playing. I don't know. This credit sequence has gone on for much longer than I was expecting it to, but I think we're finally nearing the end here, which is good because I'm running out of things that I had off the top of my head to talk about, to say. So for the most part, I haven't actually even been watching the credits. I've just been making sure that the recording has been running smoothly, because I didn't want to interrupt this because I'm not sure if I can even pause during the credits. So I've been recording this all as one giant lump, whereas usually I break it up in those more manageable 10 to 15 minute segments. This one I'm going to have to edit down myself in some fashion. One more thing. By the time I start uploading Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, I'm hoping to have a new editing setup going, which should afford me some slightly higher video quality. So you got that to look forward to. Alright, what's this? What do I got here? You have saved your kingdom. What is left of it. Unfortunately, despite your best efforts, the dead outnumber the living. Those who survive to rebuild are too busy grieving to honor your narrow victory. Hooray! Well, to be honest, if they're all gonna just whine and complain about it, that's on them. Well, alright. I guess now the world is open to me for some freeform play.
You have accomplished something quite extraordinary. I do not think even your father could have equaled it. The kingdom teetered on the brink of annihilation, and yet we live, all thanks to you. As for me, I'm just an old servant, and that is what I will always be. You know where to find me should you ever require my assistance, sir.
Does he, like, sleep in here? I feel like this should have bothered me sooner. Like, he really does just sort of live in the sanctuary. I don't know how that works out for him. It's kind of weird. Anyway, I'm going to save the game here. Even though I suppose there's something I could do to alter the end of the game a little bit. I'm going to save it here, and, if people are interested in me trying to explore different aspects of the gameplay, maybe I'll come back and do some more showcase videos for Fable 3. But for the most part, I would say that Fable 3 is definitely mission accomplished. Hopefully you agree, and hopefully you'll join me back here when I start posting new content, different video games, different ideas. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I really, really do. And I hope that you'll leave me some feedback, some comments, and maybe subscribe. I'd really like it when you guys like what I'm doing. Anyway, I guess that's it for Fable 3, and this is your valiant Captain Vasco, signing off. I'll see you on the horizon.